Good evening, everybody. Welcome to tonight's Joe and Joe Weather Show. Yes, indeed. Although at the moment we are missing one Joe, so I'm guessing usually if he's not on by now, he's having some sort of computer difficulty. But this too shall pass, and I'm sure he's going to be with us momentarily. So we're just going to have to be patient on this. And in the meantime, it is just to remind everybody that it is Thursday, the 6th of January, 2022, and the Joe and Joe Weather Show is brought to you by our friends at Omni True Value Hardware at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York. Usually they like to open early for snowstorms, so you might want to give them a call. And by early, I mean during the early morning hours, like 4 or 5 a.m. 631 756 1125 for the best prices anywhere in the tri-state area. If you're in need of rock salt, if you're in need of Pelleto, Mag, ice pellets and flakes, all the great snow and ice melt products, or a new snow blower, or spreaders, shovels, anything you need to make sure your yard is clean and safe this winter season, head over to Omni. Again, 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon. 631 756 1125 is the telephone number, and the website is omnitruevalue.com. So I don't quite know what the situation is, but I would like to, in the meantime, of course, acknowledge a few of the super chat hits tonight. We have Doug Wetzel, who hit super chat tonight, along with David Fuller, and also Mahogany 2680. Thank you for all of you for the kind words. And Mahogany, thank you for saying best weather show in town, or at the very least, we try to be. I'm assuming, by the way, that you guys are hearing me okay, because I was setting up stuff for the show around 7 o'clock, and I noticed that Microsoft did one of those things where it changed all my audio settings, and I don't quite know why. And anyway, I seem to be, my board is telling me that everything is okay on my end. I'm just gonna step away from the mic for 1 second. I just want to check my phone in case he's sending me a text to let me know what's going on his end. So just hang on 1 second, folks. I will be right back. Okay, I thought I sent him the Zoom link. It's my fault. Oh my, this is what happens when you have so much to do. If you've been following me today in terms of website posts and everything else, we are. Thanks Steve Lapointe, by the way, for sending me that message. So I'm going to get this over to Joe right now. I thought I had sent it to you, but I guess I didn't. So my mistake. And come on. Come on. Oh, God. Everything on the board tonight is slow, slow, slow. This is what happens. Just lovely. Okay, so you should have it now. So we'll get Joe Rayo on board momentarily. Mark G hitting a super chat tonight. I sent Joe Rayo the link. That was my fault. I've been putting up so much stuff today that I guess I did everything but send him the show link. So it's been one of those days, folks. I've been up since 4 a.m. and on top of posting all the weather stuff I did today, plus a weather in 10 video for Patreon members, I spent a little, I went to the hospital today to get my colonoscopy. So I guess my whole schedule. Joe Rayo, are you there? I'm sorry,
Hello.
Joe. You know what? I've been up since 4 a.m. I don't know if you've been seeing, but I've been posting tons of weather stuff all day long. And I gave you the link, the YouTube link to post, and I forgot to send you the Zoom link on it. So my apologies. It wasn't any reason other than it wasn't like I was trying to keep you away from the show.
You probably were trying to keep me away, if only for the fact that I seem to be the one person who is by far and away so far the most conservative for this impending snow event. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm seeing up here people forecasting for not only New York City, but for my neck of the woods up here in Putnam Valley, as much as 3 to 5 inches of snow. And I'm saying, really? Really? That much? You want to go for 3 to 5 for where I live?
Well, no,
So
I'm not.
anyway,
I'm not that high for you. I went for two. You know, I've got two in Southern Dutchess County and four in Northern Westchester. So you could put yourself somewhere in between that if you'd like.
I'm
So
lower than that.
no, I
I'm
know
lower
you're
than that.
lower. I know you're
Yeah.
lower than that, and I came up a little bit. I'm actually below the Weather Service, so you know I'm also underneath what most numbers are. I have to tell you though, there are a couple of lessons that I want to just extract from all of this, and this is what happened yesterday. Um, to me, it seems obvious that we're seeing a slightly stronger system evolve from yesterday, starting yesterday evening when I was in between bathroom trips with this colonoscopy trek, the thing I had to do. I was running back. Okay, I got time here before the next time I got to go. So let me check this model. Or let me check that model. I started to notice the European model, brought its numbers up in the in-betweens. And then when the regular runs came out, not by much, just a little bit. And then the next runs on the NAM and the GFS and the European, they brought it up a little bit more. And then the next run, just a little bit more, just very, 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 grudgingly nudging up numbers by small amounts. And I think this has to do with the fact I was looking at the upper air, that the upper air is a little bit sharper with the trough, and maybe it buys an extra hour or two of snowfall for coastal areas more than it does for inland spots. So, I see I understand where you are with this, and I don't have a particular problem for being on the with the idea of being on the conservative side. I actually, I went for 4 for the New York City and 5 for Long Island east of Riverhead and 6 for Southeastern New England. I think it's a fair forecast. It's underneath the consensus, and it's mostly either at or underneath what some of the models are doing. But this is what it is. But one of the points I wanted to make was because I saw your early call yesterday, and what I think has really become insidious. We talk about all the stuff that goes on the media and on social media with all of this stuff. The obsession with changing forecasts every 6 hours is mind blowing to me now. I had people posting stuff during yesterday, messaging me saying, "Oh, so and so just said that the numbers are coming down," only to have them go back up later. I mean, if you're going to put an early call forecast, which I did, then they were asking me about mine because everybody's forecast shopping, and I said, you know what I put out is what I put out. I'm not changing it until late Thursday afternoon. There's plenty of time for this. There's no reason to go up or down either way. But this idea of changing your forecast every 5 minutes because some model does one thing or another is really, I mean, it does a horrible disservice to people. I believe. And if you can't do an early call forecast that you can't stand by for less than 5 minutes, you really shouldn't be doing one at all.
Yeah, well, I did put out my preliminary outlook yesterday in the afternoon. I put one out before noontime today. I'm pretty, Joe. Here's the thing: I have been hearing other forecasts, and they've been saying, well, we're going to get the first snowflakes start to fall between 10 and midnight, or midnight to 1 or 2 in the morning. That's when we're really going to begin to see the snow begin. And quite frankly, it would not be at all surprising to me if many people looked out their windows at 4 a.m. and hardly saw anything happening at that moment, because the dew point temperature right now, on average, around the tri-state area is like 14 degrees. That is very dry, cold air. And the NAM, the FOOS at 12Z today, the tabular information, indicated that the R1 level, that is the level from the ground to about 1,500 to 2,000 feet above our heads. That section of the atmosphere at 1 o'clock Eastern time Friday morning is going to have a relative humidity of 57%. And let me tell you, and I said this on my discussion today, from my experience, from all of these years, when I see a 57% for the R1 on the FOOS, that tells me that I don't care how hard the snow is falling at 12,000 feet above our heads. When it comes down through a dry layer like that, it's going to evaporate.
Oh
It
yeah,
is going to
no,
be
no.
turned
Look,
up.
look. You've got two.
And this is what happened. This is what happened with the storm Sunday night and Monday.
Right,
and Monday morning, I'm still seeing forecasts from my neck of the woods and for New York City, an inch or two. It never happened because it was too dry.
The only the difference this time around is that eventually it does happen, because
it does.
The NAM does give almost 0.6 of an inch of liquid to LaGuardia. Now you cut that back, it's going to be all snow.
Where did you get that? Where did you get that?
On the 12Z. On the 18Z.
Oh, I don't look at the 18. Oh, give me a break with the 18Z.
Oh,
see, this is why they change. This is why they change, Joe. They change because they look at that GD intermediate 6Z and 18Z prog, and they say, "Oh, here we go. We got to go with it now."
No, I did not make my change in my forecast till I looked at the 18Z. I did not look at the 12 and make a forecast and then changed it with the 18Z. But clearly something is happening, because all the models, whether you go up from yesterday up through today, the amount of precip that's being generated is a little bit higher. So I'm not going to ignore that, even if it is an in-between run. I'm just not going to do that. So in my view, I mean, I'm not that much higher than you. I'm just a little bit higher than you. If you're going for 2, I'm going for 3. If you're going for 3, I'm going for 4. Okay? It's not like you're going for 2 and I'm going for 6. And in fact, if I looked at your map correctly for what you have for Central and Eastern Long Island, we're almost on the same page. We are on the same page. Put your map up. I mean, if you want to put your map up, go ahead.
I will.
And then I'll put,
if I can find the.
And then I'll put mine up.
Hold on.
My God, it's the first snow of the season. You don't have to get so touchy. Lord Almighty! You yelled at me here. You never yell at me. I never yell at you. Now,
can you see it?
Yeah, I see it. I mean, okay, so you've got, all right, where you've got you've got that 2 to 4 inch line. So I assume the eastern part of that 4-inch line, that line is 4, so it's 4 plus from Riverhead. Okay, so I've got 5 there. All right, you've got the where you've got the 2-inch line. I have 4. All right, so I'm on the high end of where you are on that.
Look, but I've seen forecasts now today, and they've got this whole broad zone where I'm outlining right now. They're going for like 3 to 5 inches, and I said to Renata, I said they're going 3 to 5. I said, should I get the snow blower ready? By the way, I have not gotten the snow. I only get it out when we get 3 inches or more. And in my heart and in my mind, I don't expect to see more than 2 inches here in Putnam Valley, mainly because, again, I'm not expecting much until 3 or 4 in the morning. And then, Joe, the fast speed of this thing, I think it's going to be out of here, out of where I am at least, by 7 o'clock in the morning. So I'm going to have 3 hours to work with. And even if I'm going at 1 inch per hour, that only still means 3 inches for me. And I think it's going to be less than that. You see, it's also the joining together of 2 different storms. One that has already dumped like 8 inches in parts of Tennessee, like Nashville. That's coming north and east. That's going to fizzle out in the coming hours. It's now going to use the Tex Antoineism, it's going to lateral its energy to a little system.
Right, you can already see it. The thing is the global models and the short-term models are treating this a bit differently. Because if you look at the global models are basically just taking the main low and moving it along and strengthening it as it goes northeastward. So it has this gradual area of expanding precip. On the other hand, the NAM, the HRRR, they're expanding the coastal low. They're causing a coastal low to form. There are a couple of things happening on the NAM though after that, and one includes the fact that as the upper trough sharpens up, there's what looks like almost a small upper low that's trying to form off the New Jersey coast. This one low goes low on the western side, which the model every run has been getting a little bit more. That's been shown to be a little bit more obvious. Now I'll show you mine. I mean, my map. In fact, I can tell you that you're actually higher than me for Eastern Long Island and Southeastern Connecticut. So it's not all. Wait a minute. There's my map. Okay, so here's what my map looks like. So I mean, I've got that 2 line up in southern Dutchess County. I've got a 4, northern Westchester back to about New York City. I also have 4 along the New Jersey shore. This is where they all have winter storm warnings up. And then I've got 5 from Riverhead East, and I've got 6 in southeastern New England. So I'm a little bit higher than you on the west end, and actually you're a little bit higher than me on the eastern part of this. So look, we'll see what turns out through all of that. What's interesting to me too is the fact that if you look at, I thought this was kind of funny today, but I'm going to bring the watches and warnings map up, and if you look at the way the watches and warnings map that we have today, and actually if we had brought this up, if we had the one from about 3 hours earlier, all of Tennessee and all of Kentucky were under winter storm warnings, and I actually have winter storm warnings up for the mountains just northeast of me, up in western North Carolina. But the weather warnings line up almost the same as it did with the storm the other day. The only difference is that this time around, the storm makes a more northward move, and you've got the advisories and winter storm warnings up further up the coast, all the way up into coastal Maine. So, I always kind of the trend is your friend, and weather doesn't repeat exactly. Systems do have a rhyming nature to them. So I thought that was kind of interesting that the warnings lined up about the same as they did the other day. But in other ways, this is a bit of a different storm system.
A few people on the chat board, and Sal Packy or Packy has indicated global and mesoscale both show a northward trend today and a bit wetter. Question is, where will the banding set up? Let me again, has already done a number on Tennessee. That's going to fade out, as you said, Joe. The global model just simply taking that and expanding it as it moves off the coast. But the fact is that there's going to be a period where energy and moisture is going to be transferred to the second system off the coast. That takes time. And one of the people I used to work with at the private weather office that I used to work at for many, many years, he went to Penn State, and he said one of his meteorology professors used to say that when that happens, when you have to count on one storm handing off to a second storm, that there's going to be an area that the snow from the first storm is going to shrink to expand again, but somewhere in between the two storms, you end up with, as this professor at Penn State, and I hope he didn't use this term literally in class, but you're going to end up in the F zone.
No, that's what's going to happen. The snow hole, the screw zone. Absolutely.
Right. And that's what's going to happen, I think, tonight for all. And again, it's speed, it's timing.
Yeah.
As I said, if we don't start seeing steady snow, let's say, I don't care where it is, New York City, if we don't start seeing that happen by 4 o'clock in the morning, the way this thing is going to explode and move quick, you're only going to have, I think, 3 or 4 good hours to lay down your snow. And unless your snow is coming down at 1 inch or more an hour, you ain't in New York City proper. You ain't going to get more than 4 inches. You don't have to look at the numbers and say, well, look at what the NAM is generating right now. Blah, 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 blah. You got to use your brain sometimes.
No. You're absolutely right. I mean, obviously, at first glance, the map I just put up might look a little. Scott Briller hitting super chat tonight, and also Mark G hitting super chat tonight, reminding me about the link. The chairman says snow breaks. If snow breaks out to the north first, it limits everything into south and east, and that's a good question. And in fact, that's kind of to an extent that's happening here. Now, I've often used that concept of snow breaking out north and west of the coast for systems. When you see the snow start snowing in western Massachusetts and Vermont and New Hampshire before it starts snowing here, you're in trouble from the standpoint of keeping it all snow and going to rain. In this particular instance, what you're describing, Joe, I think that explains, if you look at my start times, which are in black, okay, there's a jagged edge to it. And the start times across northeastern Pennsylvania and into northwest New Jersey, I have at midnight. And it actually does start in western Massachusetts and maybe even up by you by 3 a.m. But it's going to start later in that zone from northern New Jersey across New York City to southern New England between 3 and 6 a.m. So those that, we're talking about a couple of hours here, but a couple of hours makes a huge difference. And that jagged edge exemplifies the idea of what the NAM is doing. And now take a look. If you look at the satellite, I don't know if you picked up on this, but that secondary low, if we're going to go the route of the secondary low, you can actually see it. It's separate from the main area of clouds that is running northeastward from the Tennessee Valley up through the northern mid-Atlantic and northeast. And those clouds are streaming northeastward, but there's that separate area there that's off the mid-Atlantic coast. And it's from that the NAM and the HRRR develop a separate low, as opposed to what the GFS and the European do, which is just basically keep the primary low and move it along northeastward. When you look at the radar, most of there is convection off the Carolina coast. I think that's representative of what's going on there off the coast. So if maybe the primary, if the globals are right, it says the primary low never loses it, and then you're going to have a slightly different outcome here. If the NAM is right and the short range is right, you're going to have that secondary low that's going to be more important, and that kind of complicates things as far as tonight is and tomorrow. Right now, all the precip is with the northern the area that's inland, the main low, and we've got snow on the radar in West Virginia, in eastern Kentucky, western Virginia, starting to pull out now completely in Tennessee, up into northern Virginia, and now moving into southern Pennsylvania. What's in the blue, especially the darker blue, is all aloft, and none of that is reaching the ground. As you stated, you got a ton of dry air there. So, it's going to take a while for all of that to work its way down to the lower levels.
Right. And in fact, it's going to be so dry that what you're going to really need to force the moisture down to the ground is a significant system. And indeed, the southern system, you could look at the FGen map at 700. All of a sudden, at around 4 or 5 in the morning, the FGen becomes dramatically tight right over the tri-state area. And that literally is the thing that's going to force that snow to come on. It's almost as if the atmosphere is saying, all right, here it comes. Whoa! And finally, it's going to come down like at 3 or 4 in the morning. But then, as that explosion, that bombogenesis, if you will, of the second storm takes place, it's going to say, follow me, guys. And it's going to drag all of that energy and moisture out of the area. I frankly, Joe, think I'm going to be done with the snow up here in Putnam Valley by 7 a.m. New York, 7, 8 in the morning, and even eastern Long Island, over said and done for the significant snows by 10 a.m. And again, it's timing. How much are you going to be able to pull or drag out of the atmosphere? What intensity can you get to pile up the snow amounts to be on the order of, as I said, for some forecasts I've seen 3 to 5 inches for up here in Putnam Valley. I don't understand how that is possible. And even up into Dutchess County.
I agree with you. 3 to 5 inches up by you is too high. Okay, that's too high. Okay, you want to go 2 to 3. I think that's fair. But 4 at the absolute top. But 5 for you. I mean, if you got 5 if you find a way to
If
get
I get 5, New York City. If I get 5, New York is getting 8, which is
right.
fine. Well, Long Island's going to get like a foot. I just,
Well, look, I'm
I
looking at
can't buy into.
I'm looking at the NAM FGen, and I'm seeing what you at 6Z. It's very very tight all over the place across the southern New England, Long Island, back through New Jersey and eastern Pennsylvania. By 5 a.m. by 4 a.m. It's up the northern edge of its bayou, but it's still very very strong in east for New Jersey, northern New Jersey through southern New England. And actually, at 9 or 10 in the morning, it's still pretty strong over central and eastern Long Island and southeastern New England. I think the differences with the NAM runs is one of the things that's a little different with regards to it is the fact that um, it's already starting to deepen the coastal low, and as a result, it's slowing it down. So as you go further to the east, if you start going further to the east out across Long Island, then you head into New England, those areas are going to snow maybe an extra hour or 2 hours. You got to start to get to southeastern New England. You're talking about maybe an extra 3 hours or 4 hours. Those areas may snow for 7 or 8 hours for this event as opposed to say 3 or 4. So that extra time is going to be, is certainly going to put down more snow. I'll be curious to see. We've got a NAM coming up in an hour. Whether this, every run, sort of incremental, very slight um, increases in precip amounts verifies. And the other thing I would just point out too is, forget the snow maps because I really didn't look at them today. I've been looking at the total, precip, the total pre-accumulated precip map. I think that's a far more useful thing to look at with regards to trying to figure out, just kind of doing it the old-fashioned way instead of letting the algorithms do it for you. And they're generating, like on the let me look at the 12Z GFS, for example. And again, this has just the surviving primary. It does give a 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch of liquid from New York City on east, and it does give you between 3 and 4/10. So I mean, that was the 12Z GFS. I won't even bring up the 18Z GFS, but just to go in on the 12 and the NAM, which I didn't get I sort of didn't because of the way things worked out for me today. But even the NAM I'm sorry, the 12Z NAM, the NAM had, about 4/10 across Long Island, 3/10 across New York City, and 2/10 up by you on the 12Z. So let's see if we're going to get another incremental increase in the amount of precip being generated because the upper trough is ever so slightly sharper than it was yesterday.
Also, I'd like to mention, and this now is the hand-drawn probabilities here. Let me go back to the share screen thing. I want to show you this.
While you pull that map up, Robert Russo hitting super chat tonight. Thank you, Robert. And I think there was one more. Just let me scroll back here so I make sure I get everybody. That's one thing about it on my end. It loses it, but I think I got everybody so far. Thank you, Robert. And we're at 95 likes. So if you can take us over 100, which shouldn't be a really big effort here, Joe and I would most appreciate it. Now, Mr. Rayo, if you will, let me make sure I got you up on the screen so people can see what you're talking about here. So just give me a moment.
Right. This is this map that you're about to see is from the WPC, the Weather Prediction Center. They actually say forecaster WPC. They don't give a specific name of the person who generated this, but this is the day one probability for snowfall at or in excess of 4 inches. And I bring this up, and incidentally, this year they're doing something different. For all the years up until now, it was just simply 3 concentric or 3 contour lines, one that was blue, one that was green, and one that was red for the various probabilities. Now they've actually shaded things in. But look over here toward New York City, and you see that in the immediate New York City area, the probability, this is again given by the WPC, the probability for at least 4 inches of snow is only a mere 10% or 10 to 40%. And in fact, if you look really hard, and I guess maybe in Long Island Sound they have green, which would be 40 to 70%. They
Yeah.
really don't have the red of 70% or more for 4 or more inches until you get to Eastern Long Island, Rhode Island, East Central East Central Massachusetts and Cape Cod on up to down East Maine. So if you want a surety, at least based upon whoever did this forecast for the WPC, if you want a surety or certainty of at least 4 inches, then you're going to have to head to the east over into parts of New England for that. But here they're only giving 10 to 40% as the probability for 4 or more inches, which tells, and look, north and west of there, where I am, for example, northwest New Jersey, and virtually all of the Hudson Valley, there's no probability to speak of, which tells me that they're thinking
there's
that
your
the
snow
amount of
hole.
snow
That's
will
your
probably be
right. That's your
right there.
That's your snow hole, right in there.
Yeah.
Northern New Jersey,
Right.
southeastern PA, down into Maryland. Your primary,
Right.
if your primary is what's back in West Virginia, then you got your snow hole, and then you've got your secondary. Now, I will say,
Right.
by the way, the WPC computer generated map is identical to this. So I can tell you, from the computer generated map, which I have in front of me, the 40%, the back edge of 40% is over Western Suffolk County. And then you've got, it's a very tight gradient, and it goes to 50 to 60 over Eastern Long Island, 70 to 80 as you head to Eastern Connecticut and into Rhode Island, and then you got this big area of 80%. Now, I've always kind of looked, with WPCs with these forecasts, oftentimes the 40% line, if you bet the 40% line as the line that you're going to use as your 4-inch line, that tends to work out a lot of the time. So here, I'll show you, that map. I can show you the computerized version of it is right here. So let me bring that up. And you can see what WPC is doing with this, as Joe just put up. David Schwartz hitting super chat tonight. He's asking, what kind of snow ratios do you think, Mr. Rayo?
I thought about that. That crossed my mind. And this is not an official thing. I mean, this is just highly subjective. I always thought that anything for 10 to 1 ratio, 1 inch of rain equaling 10 inches of snow, I was thinking in terms of anything from 32 down to about 29 degrees. Then I go 12 to 1 for 28 to, let's say, 24 degrees, and 15 to 1 for below 24 degrees. And I mean, very rarely would I think of something like 20 to 1. For that, it would have to be in the teens. And it rarely ever snows significantly when it's in the teens. But that's what I would think you would get, the puffy, powdery 20 to 1 type snow when it's very, very cold. For this particular scenario coming up, except if you live, let's say, in the far northern and western sections of the tri-state area, where it would be like in the mid-20s come daybreak, most everybody else is going to be in the upper 20s to around 30. So it'd probably come out to be a 10 or 11 to 1 type ratio, which is, you just simply take the liquid precipitation, I think, go 10 or 11 to 1, and you'll come pretty close. It's not anything where you're going to have to be concerned about the puff factor, bubbling up or puffing up the snow accumulations, at least in this particular case.
By the way, Nashville, the chairman letting me know, I had noticed that Nashville was snowing, moderate to heavy for hours there. They wound up with 7 inches. Look, somebody's also, there is going to be a screw zone. I think that's pretty obvious. I think there's also going to be a zone that probably winds up outperforming. The best chances of that, I think, are Central and Eastern Long Island. Thomas Giovanello points out, he says, Long Island tends to outperform in these types of situations. I agree with. This is the kind of situation where Central,
Oh yeah.
especially Suffolk County, Central and Eastern Long Island, Southeastern New England can wind up outperforming. That's where you see the Weather Service with their biggest through their biggest amounts of 7 and 8 inches. They've got 7 prints all over Suffolk County, and Boston has 8-inch amount of prints in and around the Boston area and points to the southeast. That makes total sense. The Weather Service has 4 in New York City, 3 up by you, 3 in Northwest Jersey, and then a lot of 3s strewed across Pennsylvania, and 2s down in the areas that got a foot plus, and some areas got a foot plus in Maryland, down into Virginia. They've got 2s and 3s there. So again, this is going to, there are going to be areas that are going to turn out to be some very disappointed snow lovers, and then there are going to be areas where you're going to wind up with some jumping for joy. And just, I've been, watching this upper air here. This is, I think, important to pay attention to. We went from, if we think back a week ago on Friday of last week, we had the models on the long range on the GFS showing and the European, for that matter, showing a very sharp trough moving through the east. We watched as they backed off from that, and then the European didn't back off as much. Then they, came back, then they backed off a little again, and now they seem to be kind of gravitating to a slightly sharper look. And if you look here on the NAM, for example, from the 12Z, the short wave that is coming through is a little more defined. Not quite what you'd like to see if you want a bigger storm, which would be a sharper V shape, but it is a bit better defined. And if we compare that to the most recent 18Z run, the short wave on the 18Z run is actually ever so slightly sharper again. So the NAM is also, well, this is the NAM now, ever so slightly sharper with this trough, and this is one of those situations that I think if you it is ever so slightly sharper, you're going to wind up maybe buying an extra hour or 2 of snow for somebody, and there's your extra inch or 2 on top of whatever you're going to be forecasting. So, look, we're all kind of gonna look back at this. And some of us, you're going to bust in some places are going to do well forecast wise in some places, and some others you're not going to do so well. That's always the reality when it comes to these sorts of things. So I don't know.
Of course, in the days when we used to be at News 12 Long Island, you and I, we remember our good old friend Don Thompson out in Eastern Long Island, who was always bitching, man, I use that term, bitching and moaning about the fact that he was always getting clobbered by these, because Don lived out where? What was the town? Green?
No, he lived in Noyak.
Noyak, that's right, which was way out to the east. And he was always saying, like, the National Weather Service never listened to him. And of course, then the Weather Service was in 30 Rockefeller Plaza, and he would call and tell them, it was a lot colder than they said that it would be or predicted, and he got a lot more snow than they had predicted. They never listened. And then as soon as the Weather Service relocated from Rockefeller Center to Brookhaven or to Upton out in Eastern Long Island, out in
and
Don
right
area.
Right in the middle of the Pine Barrens, by the way.
Right. That's when all of a sudden all the things that Don Thompson had been complaining about for all those years, that's when the Weather Service guys saw for themselves that, hey, it's cold out here, or hey, we got a heck of a lot more snow than what we were forecasting. I guess, Joe, it's like what they say about Missouri. You have to see it for yourself.
Right.
And, they did.
And by the way, from the standpoint of a forecaster here, of course, we're getting to the point now where you just have to kind of, you're going to have this one run. The next run model cycle is going to be enough of it's going to be out in an hour. So after that, you really can just kind of close the books on whatever the short range is doing, and just watch your radar, watch your surface observations. And that'll tell you where this is going. If you start to see snow break out faster, then that's a clue. If you see the snow taking longer and longer to break out, that's a clue. And both are going to take you in different directions. I have the 0Z HRRR. You could, it almost, Joe, it almost looks like what it's doing is it's like there's a center jump that occurs with the low center in Western Virginia in about an hour, and then all of a sudden it just jumps east northeast, and then gradually strengthens and it moves out northeastward. It's got a fairly decent snow field here, but it does also has that same idea of the NAM where there's some of the snow comes over the top first, and then the rest of it just fills in. It fills in mostly between 1 a.m. and 4 a.m. And then the back edge at 9 a.m., the back edge of the snow is about halfway across New Jersey. It's still snowing by you. It's snowing on Long Island. It's snowing in Connecticut, snowing in Rhode Island, Massachusetts. But I only have out to 13 hours. So, but, we could, there's no point in looking at every single model. We know how this is all going to transpire.
Well, it would be lovely for the snow lovers for a setup like this. What you'd really like to have, snow lovers, need I tell you, is a nice, big, juicy, high pressure system somewhere over upstate New York or over Maine, just sitting there and saying to the secondary low, "Oh, what do you mean you want to? No, you don't have to leave so fast. Stay around for a while." And that's where you're going to get your big storms. But without that big block, that storm tomorrow morning is going to just pop its cork and say, "Bye now."
Right. Well,
and
look,
take all the good snow with it.
If you had a sharpening trough that was sharpening sooner, where you would have the low begin to deepen as it moved off the North Carolina coast, and maybe even though it was moving at a quick speed, it was more tucked in, that you would catch the deepening. So that maybe instead of snowing for say 4, 6, or 7 hours, you wind up snowing for 8, 9, or 10 hours. You could still wind up with a really sizable snowfall, maybe up to a foot or so in some places. So yeah, I mean that's the other option here. If the trough is a little sharper and slows things down, the low starts to strengthen maybe a little sooner. Maybe it's a little slightly more tucked in. That's going to somewhat help the cause. Now, the other thing I want to bring up, by the way, is after this goes out. Of course, it's going to turn very cold Friday night. We're going to be down in the teens to around 20 all across the Northeast, down into the northern mid-Atlantic states. It probably won't get much above 30 on Saturday. Now, on Sunday, we've got this Arctic front approaching, and we're going to be doing it with a west-southwest wind, both at the surface and aloft. Now, my experience has been, especially for inland areas in a situation like this, that the west-southwest wind is not really a good warming wind in January. You wind up warming it up aloft, but you trap all the cold air down at the surface. So I'm wondering whether on Sunday for inland areas that there could be some freezing rain issues Sunday morning into Sunday afternoon. I don't know if you took a look at that and how you feel about it, but I think there's a risk that there could be some icing Sunday morning into the afternoon, especially away from the coast.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, we had that yesterday morning right here.
Yeah.
My driveway was like, well, all I could say is if I had the phone number, I would have invited the Rangers to come up here to do some practice runs on my driveway. It was and I fell not once but twice, Joe. And once I was straight down on my chest, on my stomach. I mean, it was amazing. And I said, "Oh my God, this is horrible." 28, and I live on a hill. I live on a hill here in Putnam Valley, and I'm seeing cars. Well, first of all, I took my first flop at the bottom of my driveway. Meanwhile, there's this car up the road who's coming down at like 2 miles an hour down the road because the road was so slippery. He rolled down his window as he passed me. He said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "I'm fine. How's the road?" And he says, "It sucks."
Yeah.
It was like misery loves company here. And that was a story yesterday morning. And I did look at the maps for Sunday, and I said, "Oh my God, it looks like it could very well be a repeat." Although maybe not, because what I had yesterday morning, I had maybe 1/100th of an inch. I didn't have a whole heck of a lot of precipitation, but it was just enough to put a thin glaze, and that has got to be the deadliest scenario for you, just to have a thin coating of ice on an untreated driveway or roadway. That's exactly what we faced yesterday morning. And I think that what we're looking at for Sunday, we may have a bit more than just 1/100th of an inch of precip to deal with, but it may still turn out to be freezing rain, maybe some sleet, or even a couple of wet snowflakes mixing in. So yeah, that looks like the problem.
And then after that goes out, we're going to turn very cold for the first half of next week with a nice cold 1041 high coming down from Canada into Minnesota and heading for the Virginia coast. And then we've got another front and some kind of trough dropping into the eastern part of the United States at the end of next week. It looks like it drops more in New England, but there's plenty of time for some model shenanigans where the trough maybe gets pulled back to the west. We'll have to see on that. It sort of rhymes with what's been happening, the way the setups have been from last week going into this week, and now this week going into next week. So the other thing I would point out, I don't know if you've been, I've been watching. It's very interesting what's going on up at the 10 millibar range, because I don't know if you've been looking at every run of this.
I haven't, but
Okay.
before you get into that, let me just show you what CPC, the Climate Prediction Center, has. They have outlined this part of the Northeast.
All right, hold on. Let me switch. Let me switch it over. Hold on. So I don't want your audio to be a mess here. Just give me a moment, because it seems like when I switch you, my audio goes a little kablooey. So okay, now you can go ahead and talk.
All right. So this is the Climate Prediction Center's outlook. Their 8 to 14 day outlook for possible problematic weather. And this zone that you see here indicated for slight from the 15th through the 17th of January. And that would include what? That would be a week from Saturday. Is that the system that you were talking about, Joe, just a few moments ago?
Yeah.
For that, well, they've got this entire the Northeast and the Mid-Atlantic, slight chance for problematic snow potential, maybe heavy snow, I don't know, for the 15th through the 17th. And if I recall correctly, it was about a week ago that I showed this same map, and they indicated the same region or same area, a slight chance for possible problematic snows in the Northeast. So this is an interesting map to look at. Again, this is from the Climate Prediction Center. So I think I would give them high marks for their long-range outlook from last week for tonight and tomorrow, because we do have a significant snowfall that we're looking at for this zone. And now they're outlining this same area for not this weekend, but next weekend, for again the chance for some significant snowfall.
Yeah, I mean, you are going to be dropping a nice looking trough into the eastern part of the United States late next weekend and early for the date of the 17th. So I don't think that is certainly out of the question. As I said, there's enough room here for model shenanigans where things start shifting. Instead of dropping a trough right along the East Coast, it winds up dropping more like at 80 or 85, and then it's a whole different ball game with regards to that. The only other thing in terms about the long range, and I just want to point out, and I don't know if you've been looking at the 10 millibar on a regular basis. I've been trying to look at it. It's been very volatile in terms of what it wants to do toward the end of the forecast period, because you've been talking about the fact that you've been saying that maybe for the latter part of the month we might get out of this pattern and warm up.
Right.
And I don't have any argument with that, but I just want to indicate that when I've been looking at some of these runs of the 10 millibar, and it seems to be going back and forth with two different ideas. One is, and I'm looking here now, this is for next weekend, which is the weekend of the 15th, 16th, 17th. The polar vortex is centered up from the North Pole northward to the coast of Siberia, but it's very stretched out and very elongated from north to south. And what it's been doing is it's been rotating very quickly, where an arm goes out and then another arm comes down, and that the polar vortex on some runs has been showing this north-south look, with the flow going from Siberia into Canada, into eastern Canada, all throughout the forecast period. And then you have other runs in between that do something different. And by the way, it's not, sometimes it's the 12Z, sometimes it's the, off hour runs, but you've got the other runs taking the polar vortex up in Siberia and wrapping it up. Now, this is one of the runs apparently tonight where it wants to leave this sort of elongated, stretched out look, which I think would argue where you have a trough at the stratosphere in the eastern part of the United States. This to me suggests that it's going to want to stay cold into the latter part of January. But some other runs have taken it, the polar vortex, and wrapped it up into a tight little ball and pulled it all the way back up into Siberia. And that would argue that you would get, the warm up. So it seems like the models upstairs are having a very, very tough time with all of this. And by the way, there's one other thing with regards to next weekend and early next week. I would also point out the fact that the NAO, the North Atlantic Oscillation, is forecast to go negative again after about the 14th of January. So the NAO is going to be going negative while all this stuff is going to be happening around the 15th, 16th, and 17th in the eastern part of the United States. And the PNA, and by the way, just for a disclosure, this is yesterday's. For some reason, they didn't update it today. But this was yesterday's. And the PNA stays positive. So that's something to think about. Cliotech hitting Super Chat early. Joe, he asked, if snow starts early, will it end early?
Well, the time frame I've been looking at is like 7, 8 in the morning, at least for the immediate New York area. So I think that's going to hold.
For
the
ending.
only thing that is, yeah, but the only thing that is different or can vary is the start, of course. If it manages to moisten the atmosphere, the lower part of the atmosphere sooner, yeah, then the snow could begin like at midnight, 1, 2 in the morning. But from what I've been looking at, I think it's going to take until like 3 or 4 in the morning before we get any kind of nice, steady snowfall. And again, as you pointed out, Joe, earlier on in the show, the sooner you get that steady snow, the better your odds are of piling it up and getting a good accumulation. The longer the snow waits to start falling at a good clip, the worse it's going to be for the snow lovers who would like to see a significant snowfall. That's going to be the key, I think, tonight, as was the case on Monday. Of course, it never did make it to the ground on Monday in many places around the local area, but if it can manage, and again, the key to tonight is going to be the FGen, all that omega, literally trying to squeeze that moisture out of the atmosphere and into the low levels, after, let's say, 2, 3, 4 a.m. If without that potent FGen, Joe, coming so far north into our area, it could very well end up being like it was on Monday. But we will see snow out of this. I think that's the good news for all the snow. Only 0.2 of an inch so far at Central Park. We're going to get probably a quite a bit more than that before this is all over, said and done.
Yep. By the way, on the latest radar, still, it's mostly what's with the lead low here, the darker greens where it's snowing, Tennessee, Eastern Kentucky, Western Virginia, most of West Virginia, on up into Northern Virginia, into Southern PA. So there's a lot of precip showing up aloft already. But and up into upstate New York and into southern, the Hudson Valley and into southern New England, but none of that is reaching the ground. So
making it down here.
So the thing to keep an eye on, in my view, watch to see if that secondary, if the global models are right. It's going to be more of just a single low that moves along and deepens. If the short range models are right, it's more of the idea of, a secondary that takes over, in which case you're going to watch, Scott, the chairman, asking about potential screw zone. So it's probably, again, going to be, if there's going to be a screw zone, it's going to wind up being somewhere eastern Pennsylvania, down into south central Pennsylvania, Maryland, and northern Virginia, and maybe into northwest Jersey. That's probably the area that I would look at as where you get, you're in between the two systems, and you wind up getting far less than everybody else.
I will say one thing, Joe. You sound very good considering that procedure you had earlier today.
Yes, who knew that if you have a colonoscopy, it makes your cough go away? But it actually did. I had it this morning. They switched my meds up again. This time they put me on they put me on prednisone, which is to bring the inflammation down in my small intestine. I actually have inflammation in both my small and large intestine, so it's rather extensive. It's bringing my inflammation down, and no cancer. I had no polyps, no cancer, so that's good. And I'm going to be meeting with the doctor next week, so he can match up some effective they have lots of medications now for what I have, and he's going to be working on trying to find the right match. And I'm going to get off the prednisone. I'm not going to, because that prednisone is you can't stay on that for too long. It's a steroid, and after a while, it can make you lose. It can really mess you up. So, but the bottom line is, yeah, I am feeling a lot better. I truly am. I've also been up since 4 a.m. So I got up at 4 o'clock this morning. I did a bunch of weathers. Then I went and had a colonoscopy, typical daily schedule. Got up at 4 a.m., did a bunch of weathers, went for a colonoscopy, and then came back, took a short nap, then woke up, and then did a whole bunch more weathers, cut a weather intent video from my subscription platform, and then came on and did the live show. So people have said to me, "You're sick. How do you have the energy to do this?" And it isn't so much the energy; it's the fact that you need a distraction. I've been dealing with this for 2 months. What am I supposed to do? Lay around for 2 months and do nothing? So you just find a way. By the way, what crossed my mind? What crossed my mind, now follow me on this, is the fact that, you went down to Antarctica, you went down to the bottom of the earth, and there was supposed to be a TV network that was supposed to follow you with cameras to the bottom of the earth. Now, I was thinking that what I had this morning was the equivalent of having a camera going down to a bottom of a different sort. I would also, by the way, point out that your haircut is fabulous. Okay, because you did have your hair done, right?
No, I haven't.
Really?
I just washed it. I washed it and blew it out this morning.
Oh, okay. No, it looks really, nice. It looks fluffy and nice, but it's all tame today.
Coming in 2 months, on my second month without a haircut. So
right.
I will eventually have to get something done to it.
Okay, and also we should point out that today is January 6th, which is in the Catholic Church the traditional Feast of the Epiphany, as opposed to now on the Catholic calendar, the Epiphany is the Sunday before, either it's on the 6th if the 6th is on a Sunday, or it's the Sunday before the 6th. So the Epiphany, I believe, was I think it might, was it last Sunday? 25th was Saturday, 26th was a Sunday, so that was a Sunday Mass, and then so the Epiphany was actually last Sunday, which is on the 2nd. So so last Sunday was the Epiphany. The Epiphany,
Three Kings Day.
Right. For those of you who don't know, that's the day when God revealed to humankind that men are essentially bad shoppers. And why?
I remember last year.
Right. And why?
Last year, you well, I mean, I was just going to say, like last year, you said that it's a demonstration of how men think that they can travel across strange lands without asking for directions.
Right. Exactly.
And more importantly, it showcases why men are such horrible shoppers when it comes to practical gifts for the child.
Right. Exactly. So, I mean, first of all, one of the kings shows up with gold, which is just crass. I mean, that's like showing up to a baby shower. Ask any woman, showing up to a baby shower with an Amazon gift card is not what you go to. It's just tacky. Okay. And the other two kings, what do? They bring frankincense and myrrh, which begs to the old adage that when a man doesn't know what to buy for a gift, he buys a fragrance. He gets perfume.
I thought about this long after it was valid anymore, to do a cartoon for the New Yorker magazine, and it would show the Jesus and Mary and the baby Jesus and Joseph and Mary, and they're looking strangely at one of the three wise men, who seems to have a part of a solar wing sticking out from his bag of goodies, and the caption would have read, and when they arrived, they presented him onto him gifts: gold, frankincense, and myrrh, MIR.
Yeah.
the Mir space station,
Right,
folks.
exactly.
For those of you who are not old enough to remember, but can't do that now. Mir is long gone. It entered the atmosphere many years ago.
But we crossed the 300 threshold tonight of viewers, and thank you very much. Hopefully, you hit the subscribe button on my YouTube channel so you don't miss the Joe and Joe show, because we're on almost every night. At least most of the weeks it's 5 nights and 4 nights. Yes,
ringing the bell here because Adam Toscan of Tri-State Weather, Adam Toscan, officially now has issued a meatball warning, which is now in effect. So there you go.
Good
for those of you who follow Adam Toscan,
Adam.
You know what that means.
And also, we got 163 likes. Thank you so much for those of you who hit the like button. Might be a little bit push it to maybe we could get it up to 200 between now and the time the show is done. Mr. Rayo, what say you about Briller Jeopardy? Does thou haveth, or does I haveth it?
I think you may have it. I don't believe I have any for tonight.
All right, let me just double check. I'm going to close a few windows. Also, I think.
And yes, the Chairman Briller. Yes, Ms. Renata will be here on Sunday for the first cooking Jeopardy of 2022. You can see where I'm thinking of how old I am.
Yes, exactly. Boy, time just goes by quick. Another year just went by. It's already January 6th. That long day that I always talk about, from November 1st to December 25th, really, played out here quite well. It did go by very fast, even with all the, even with everything I was dealing with. It went by pretty quick. So I think tonight's theme, Joe, is Betty White.
Okay.
Okay. So
yes, sir.
And by the way, one of my favorite Betty White bits from the Mary Tyler Moore show was when she was auditioning for a news anchor, sitting next to Ted, and they gave her a script to read about some Alaskan mudslides, and how they just basically swallowed up a whole village and everybody in it. It's the way she approaches it and the way she reads it that is just utterly hilarious. But no matter, if you're a Mary Tyler Moore show fan, you know exactly what I'm talking about. She was terrific in everything she did. So, question one: what was Betty White's first sitcom back in 1953?
I believe it was Life with Elizabeth.
And you would believe correctly. The second question is: what show did Betty White meet her husband, Alan Ludden?
They met on his game show, Goodman Todman game show, I might add, Password, which was very popular. It was on at 2 o'clock on weekdays. Joe, I know you used to watch it. I watched it. And right after Password, there was Art Linkletter's House Party. And then at 4:30, there was Mike Douglas. You look at the television landscape today, and it is so much different than the kind of landscape that we enjoyed when we grew up. But Betty White appeared on Password. Alan Ludden was the host. They looked at each other, they fell in love, and the rest is history.
Yes. How many Emmys did Betty White win on the Mary Tyler Moore Show?
I'm going to say 2.
And by saying 2, you are correct. After the Mary Tyler Moore Show with Betty White and Georgia Engel, they starred in a short-term sitcom called
The Betty White Show.
That is correct. The next question. What was the name of the 2 spin-offs of the Golden Girls?
They had spin-offs of the
Apparently
Golden
they
Girls?
did, but I guess they didn't last.
I don't think I would know either one.
All right, one was called The Golden Palace, which I don't remember. And then this show's name is a little more familiar. It's called Empty Nest. But I don't know why it's a little more familiar to me because I don't even remember watching it. What did Betty White do in May of 2010 at the age of 88?
I believe that was on Mother's Day, and they reran this on Saturday, this past Saturday. She hosted Saturday Night Live.
Yes, that is correct. What year did the Golden Girls end their original run?
Oh, was it 1992?
And it was 1992. Well, you're batting 1,000 here. The next one is Rose on Golden Girls fantasized on what celebrity was her real father?
That I don't know. I must tell you, I was not a big fan of the Golden Girls. I mean, I watched a few episodes, but I'm not really familiar with the actual character of Rose Nyland. So
The answer,
I'm afraid I'm gonna.
yeah, the answer to that is Bob Hope. Bob Hope.
Well, that's not bad. That's not
No.
to be related to Bob Hope. And look at this, Bob Hope made it to 100. Betty White just fell a couple of weeks short of that.
Yep. And Betty White originally auditioned to play who on the Golden Girls?
The role that Rue McClanahan, the man chasing, but they said they figured that was so close to her role on Mary Tyler Moore that whoever was the producer or writer said, why don't we give her I'm not going to say that she wasn't blonde, but the dumb, the not too bright one of the Golden Girls, and it worked out perfectly. It shows you how good an actress she was, where she could play a slick, kind of role like on Mary Tyler Moore, and she could go completely opposite on the Golden Girls. She was an amazing actress.
And then on the opposite side of it, when playing the character of Sue Ann Nivens on the Mary Tyler Moore Show, she was hilarious. I mean, really, she was absolutely hilarious.
And you know who her foil was Gavin MacLeod.
Yes, they both died this year, by the way.
Right. Well, 4 of them died. I mean, we had Betty White, Gavin MacLeod, Ed Asner, and Cloris Leachman. Four key characters of that show all passed away in the same year. It was a terrible year for the Mary Tyler Moore Show.
I think except for John Amos, who was on the show for the first couple of seasons, I think they're all gone.
As Gordy the Weatherman, by the way.
Yes. I believe he's still alive.
I think he is, yeah. But he was only there again for the first couple of seasons. There's one funny line, and my sister we were big Mary Tyler Moore fans. The first season of Mary Tyler Moore, they had a blizzard hit on election day.
I remember that episode.
And knocked down all the power lines, and so they couldn't get any of the election results, and they had to go like 12 hours without election results. Ted Baxter was the host of this election night coverage, Mary Tyler Moore said to Ed Asner or Mr. Grant, "Because why don't we just run an old movie?" And Ed Asner said, "That's a good question for somebody who doesn't know anything about this business. We sold our coverage to sponsors. They don't have to pay us unless we give them election night coverage. So, unless there's a movie called Election Night Coverage."
Exactly.
And the middle of all of this, with Ted having absolutely nothing to say now, because again, they didn't have any election results or whatever. He's desperate for saying anything. He turns to one side. John Amos was not in this show, but he does turn to one side and say, "Well, there's Gordy the weatherman who just dropped in to say hello. He's going to tell us all about what makes it snow right after this next commercial." Great episode. One of my favorite episodes. It was the first season. And if you have access to see, I think they have all of the episodes of Mary Tyler Moore on YouTube. So,
oh yeah, they're there.
And so
what was the election? What was the election count that never changed during the night?
Turner 85, Mitchell 23.
Right.
It was the Minneapolis mayoral election, and I have to tell you this: for the first 10 years that I was on News 12, they kept me there until like 2:00 in the morning, because my news director, Janine Rose, who was a wonderful person, she said, "Joe, we need you." She dismissed like the sports guy. He was able to leave early, but he said, "We need you to fill in case something happens during our election coverage. If something blacks out, we can always, just like with Ted, that, oh, there's Gordy the weatherman coming in to, so every year on election night," and they never noticed. No one ever noticed this. On my national weather map, I would put, for let's say Nevada, I would put Turner 85, and for like Mississippi or Michigan, I put Turner 85, Mitchell 23, as if they were temperatures. And that was my tribute to the election night episode of Mary Tyler Moore.
That's too funny. That is too funny. Just really quick, Les Plumes are out, the new ones, I think.
Oh, and we knew how great they did with the Monday.
Well, yeah,
snow.
I mean, let's not forgetting about the absolute number. I'm more interested in whether they went up a little bit or if they went down a little bit. Otherwise, yeah, I mean, they were terrible in the last. They actually, as someone who's been following the Plumes for a while, not myself, but someone else who's been following the Plumes for a while this year, they've been god awful since for a long time. So. I've always, for me, the value of it was not the numbers that they spat up so much as what the mean value, what temperature, the mean snowfall amount was, and whether it's higher than the prior run. So I could just tell you that, I'm looking at Belmar in New Jersey is a little bit higher than what it was on the prior run by about half an inch. Let's check out Islip, because I think the more significant numbers are going to be, in southern New England. Which are going to be a little more important here this time around. Islip takes a rather sizable jump on this run by about a 20% jump, actually. Goes from 4 to 5 inches. New York City for LaGuardia, just shy of 4. Also up from the prior run. White Plains, Joe, just over
4.26.
Yeah, just a little over 4 on theirs, and oddly enough, Poughkeepsie just under 4 at 379. I mean, those are the absolute numbers. For Eastern Long Island, we've got a little. I don't know why it does this, but this is right on the coast in East Hampton, so it's probably right on the beach. It's a little over 3 inches, but it is higher. And Montauk is, come up. Montauk is also a little bit higher. I'll check out Hartford. And Hartford actually gets up close to close to 6 inches. They're also a little bit higher. So there's the uptrend that has been intact since yesterday continues to be intact this evening. So let's see now. We got the 0Z run about to start on the NAM, which we're not going to wait for, and we'll see if they take the numbers up a bit. And thank you for recognizing the fact that, by the way, that I am feeling better today after finally getting the colonoscopy done. I got to get this inflammation down and then figure out what kind of medication I'm going to be on for a little while in order to fix myself up. But I appreciate it. Oh, and by the way, it should be pointed out that even though they took it down, we had a winter weather advisory up for this afternoon here. They were forecasting for up to an inch of snow, which never happened and was way overdone. But I just wanted to let you know that I had a winter weather advisory. You have a winter weather advisory. You lose a part of your tooth and you need a crown. I lose part of a tooth and I need a crown. We are right. We are attached at the hip.
Exactly.
Okay, we're 14 likes shy of 200. Can you push it up there, folks? Just a little bit higher before we say goodnight. But we do appreciate the 186. Thank you also for all the super chat hits tonight. We had a nice crowd and we still have a nice crowd watching the show at over 200. So if you could kind of nail that like up to over 200 before it's all said and done, which is going to be shortly. You have any final thoughts to add here?
No, are we off tomorrow night, or are we going to do a post-mortem on this?
I'm okay with doing a show tomorrow night.
All right, so we'll see you tomorrow night at 7:30.
Yeah, okay, that works for me. I think we could do a show tomorrow night, considering that we didn't have one on Tuesday and we didn't have one on Wednesday. Probably just as well because of the way, certainly not only because of the way I was feeling, but just that we would have been going back and forth on, what the models were doing and how this was all going to play out. So we avoided that aggravation, and I think that's a big plus. So thanks everybody for being here tonight. Most appreciated as always. Thanks everybody for those of you who hit the super chat tip jar. Joe and I appreciate that greatly. To the right now 188 likes. Thank you. For those of you who are new to the channel, I hope you hit the subscribe button so that you don't miss it, because we're on 5 days a week, including Sunday mornings. And we'll be back tomorrow night at 7:30. So how's that?
We'll see you then.
Wait, we were up to 196. Can we get to 200? We need 4 more.
197 here.
197.
Come on. 188. 190.
Yeah, I haven't taken. You're ahead of me. I'm at 197. 198.
Come on. 2 more. 2 more.
2 more. Let us.
199.
Come on. Let us see the 200. Let us see the 200.
You do that, I'll break open another bottle of sarsaparilla.
And there we go. I got 200. Okay. Thanks everybody. Again, I hope you had a lot of fun watching the show, because at the end of the day, by the way, that's what this channel is about. Weather and having a lot of fun and not taking it all this stuff too seriously, because some people do take it very seriously, and there's no real need to do that. Okay. Have a good night. We'll see you tomorrow. Night, everybody.
Nighty night.
There we go.